WTAW.
And Paul Dyson's here this morning, District 14 State Rep. Paul, thanks for being here this morning.
Morning, Scott. It's great to be actually in studio this time.
Yeah, and I have to, I found out while I was gone that you apparently negotiated or asked if you needed to negotiate on behalf of Chelsea and Sean that they should make more money when I'm traveling. You did that.
That sounds about right. I believe that is correct.
So
Something was said about that.
Yeah, so he wants to. They do. They appreciate you, and nobody's ever done that. So yeah. So let's move on. 89th legislature's all gone. We had a chance to talk to you, of course, last week before when things were shortly over. But as you look back on this, I know that there are some high points that I'd like to first probably talk about the things that you were able to accomplish as a freshman.
Okay.
Pretty unusual that you were able to get some things on the governor's desk.
Yeah, well, and that's what I've been told, right? Obviously, it's my first time in there as a freshman. A lot of people said a lot of times freshmen don't move bills. We had quite a few freshmen who moved bills this year, and I think that just goes to what our leadership in the House was allowing, and also just overall administration is that in all leadership, they were happy with us moving bills, and they were allowing you to move bills if you had some good bills out there. So
now, as the session went on, you're able to walk the halls, talk to some people. They're able to compare and contrast from years that they've been here before. Again, you had to get a speaker settled. That took a little while. But the kind of characterize, if you will, how the speaker and the lieutenant governor and the governor all got together this year.
Well, I think that from what we all expected at the beginning, which was the relationships not to be that good, it ended up being a lot better than expected. I think they were able to get a lot of priorities through. I believe on the Senate side, they got almost all their priorities through. I believe the governor got most of his priorities through, except for a couple of bail reform issues that were left out. And then the speaker was able to get quite a few of our priorities through, too.
Right. Remind folks what committees you were on.
I was on JCJ, which is Judiciary and Civil Jurisprudence, and Energy Resources.
Okay. Let's talk about the first one. You were able to actually get legislation through with Jarvis Parsons said this is important, and you ran with that. So tell us what that bill is about.
That's right. So HB 1871, which is the attempted capital murder of a peace officer. It's an enhancement to the punishment. And the issue there was the punishment is exactly the same as aggravated assault of a peace officer. And so what we did was we went in there and enhanced that because essentially, and I've heard a couple of witnesses say it, we were rewarding somebody who intended to kill a peace officer but failed at the job. And so we wanted to make sure we corrected that. It's on the governor's desk right now. We're hoping to sign it, or either way, as long as it's not vetoed, it'll become law in this September.
Sure. Paul Dyson joined us this morning as we look back on the 89th legislature. Your background was in oil and gas before you became an attorney. You're in the oil and gas industry. Your dad's in that too. So that's something that you're very knowledgeable about. Some legislation was passed, but tell me where you think Texas needs to move within the next few years to be where they need to be from an energy standpoint.
So on an overall energy standpoint, we still have a lot to do. And we did, when it comes to the infrastructure and protections that we did and the funding that we're doing there, I think we did a great job adding that infrastructure funding. But when it comes specifically to oil and gas, there's still some things that we have to take care of. And one of the biggest problems I think we're still focusing on is this orphan well problem. We have them here in Brazos County. We have them really anywhere that you had oil and gas. And these are wells that are essentially they're inactive, and the operators are no longer around, so there's no one there to go for the Railroad Commission to go and plug it. So the state of Texas has to take that on, has to take on that expense. And so there's a lot of different, we had 3 bills this session that kind of dealt with the orphan wells, but it's something we're going to continue to look at to make sure that we can start cutting the number. And I want to say that it was about 8,000 orphan wells that we have across the state of Texas right now.
Sure. Now, as far as oil and gas, clearly we're going to have to start looking at a nuclear component. We don't know on what scale yet. But is Texas doing everything it can to maintain their position as a provider, not only here in the United States, but now under this administration, maybe also outside the United States?
Yeah, I think that it is. And I think, again, we took those steps. And I was actually proud to carry Charles Schwartner's bill that for Texas A&M, it's energy proving ground that they have with 4 nuclear reactors that they plan on putting on the Rellis campus. It's one of those things that's been a main focus. There's also a project going on out in Abilene. And so it is a focus of ours, and we realize that that is an energy source that we'll be looking to in the future.
Sure. Okay, now, but there's some people that you have to defend as being part of the body, some actions that the body took that people are not necessarily pleased with. We're going to play the comments. This was from Board Member Stasny, President of the Bryan School Board, from last night.
frustrating to me is one of the things that are going to stick in a lot of people's mind is this has been touted as a record $8+ billion increase is like a record, and it's pretty easy to reach a record when you went nothing to in the last session, where the governor said, I'm going to veto anything unless I get my way on vouchers, and so nothing. I mean, basically, it was virtually nothing last session. So that needs to be out there so that no one gets this wrong impression that we're whining. Oh, you got a record increase and you're still whining. Well, we're not whining. We're just pointing out the facts. My final comment on this is just going to be, it's not too early to be talking to the extent that you have any opportunity to talk to our legislators or anyone else that's in a position to influence our legislators and the governor. It's not too early to start talking about the next section. I wish we could have a special session that would address some of these obvious glaring errors that they made, but we at least need to start working on educating our legislators and the governor about what really happened here, because I'm not sure they all understand it. In fact, I almost hope that they didn't all understand it, because you would think they would not be bragging about this budget. It's woefully insufficient in so many ways.
Your comments?
Well, and I think first, I really respect David Stasny. He's been on school board since I believe I was at school here. So he really knows it, and he knows Bryan ISD quite well. But I think both can be true at the same time. This was a historic amount of money that we put towards public schools, with the $8.5 billion increase in it, but there is still more to be done. And I think that we've all acknowledged that. I think the governor acknowledged that at his HB2 signing. And one of the things that I would point out is something that came out of these discussions was the ABC, which is the allotment for basic costs, which is looking more at fixed costs and us funding that separately. So it's almost like a separate allotment that'll be out there, which will help reduce the M&O going forward, and also will help reduce local property taxes at the same time, because it's something that's being offset by state funding. So it's one of those where, yes, did we get everything that we wanted to get done this year, public education? I would say no from the House side, and I think that was clear by how the negotiations with the House and the Senate went. But it is a good start on the journey that we're moving forward, and it does show a commitment from, I think, all parts of the state government, legislature, and governor for public education.
Paul Dyson joined us this morning. Are there areas in governance where Austin is intruding too much in local government?
I think that's, and that is the delicate balance that I've always struggled with. I struggled before I went there, and I saw it even more while we're there. And I think there are instances that, yes, we are. Local control used to be a cornerstone of what we talk about here in Texas, and definitely has a conservative value. And I think that's something that we always have to look at and see, what are we doing? And the way I look at that mostly is, right now, state government's telling a lot of times local governments, political subdivisions, what to do, but not necessarily following that with funding. A little bit different when you're offering the money and asking them to do things. A little different when you're telling somebody to do something but not giving them funding to do it, these so-called unfunded mandates.
And impact fees will forever be attached to you, and I think to some extent you wear that proudly, but at the same time, College Station is looking into that. They're struggling with what this is doing. Tell me what kind of interaction you've had with College Station since that time, and I'm sure there are other state legislators who are looking at the same thing happening in their districts. So
I've talked to a couple of city council members and the mayor since that time, and I understand what they're looking at trying to do and what they were discussing last week at the city council meeting. I'm glad that they're having those discussions, because I think that's exactly what the point of our impact fee moratorium was to have this discussion to say, are these fees needed across the board? Are they needed everywhere? Is there a way for us to kind of alleviate housing prices, which is their main focus and one of our main focuses?
Well, I think you said on our show where we were discussing it, this is an experiment, if you will. We try this and let's see what happens with that.
That's right.
Any changes that College Station or anybody else makes probably shouldn't change the idea of a moratorium. Will you introduce a moratorium again in the next session?
So I would look at, again, doing a moratorium, whether it be 2 or 4 years, something for us to address, or it may be just that we get to a policy point saying, do we even need impact fees anymore? I think when we discuss it back, I dig a little bit deep when I get into issues, and I really dug into where impact fees came from. What was the genesis of impact fees? Why the state decided they needed to allow cities to have those? Because you have to remember, cities just didn't have this innate right to have impact fees and charge impact fees. The state gave it to them back in the late 80s. Housing market was depressed, couldn't sell inventory. They had problems raising funds, and especially in the Fort Worth area, for infrastructure. And so I think that's a different issue than we're having now, where we're seeing values continue to go up. And it's more about we're building out infrastructure, but you do have a tax base that can help to pay for it. So do you have to front load that tax through an impact fee like we're currently doing? I think that's the discussion to have during this interim, and something that I really will be focused on.
And so I'm presuming you are running again.
I am running again. Yes, sir.
Anything else that, something else that you want to specifically go after in this second term if you're elected?
Well, I think several things that I'm looking at, but one of the biggest ones will be this idea of unfunded mandates. You know, we always talk about it in the sense of school districts. It's the easiest one to point to. If we tell a school district what to do, maybe they have to hire a new admin or somebody else to fill the position to fill whatever issue the state has or what the state's asked them to do. But we also have it in county government. Haven't quite seen it in city government, but that's something I want to talk to about. But it's that idea that, look, if the state wants a local political subdivision to do something, we have to fund it, or else all we're doing is pushing that expense down to local property tax payers. And so that's something I want to avoid. It's an easy way that we can cut out an increase in property taxes at a local level by telling the state that either we fund it from some other base, or we just don't require them to do it until we do have the funding for it.
Okay. Any other thoughts this morning, finally?
I think that's it. It's just great to be back home, trying to get adjusted back to all family lifestyle and everything like that. But it's great. The kids came back from summer camp this last week, so we're kind of getting adjusted to everything. But it is great to be back in district.
There you go. Paul Dyson. Thanks for the time this morning.
Thanks, Scott.
You bet.
For over 25 years, 2 Video has converted